Hello everyone and welcome back to the Festus Fantasy Football Form video rendition, and today we're going to be doing a new form of the form, pun intended. We're going to be doing more of a podcast style today. I'm still going to be having all the graphics up for the people that are watching this, intensely, but it's come to my attention that, there's a lot of people watching this in the background, a lot of people watching this on the way to work, so I feel like maybe a podcast format would be pretty good. And it also, coincidentally, helps me out a lot because I won't have to do as much editing. This video is going to be less cuts, less edits, and I'm going to be sticking more towards to a script, I should say. If I need a break or if I really mess something up, if I start yapping, I will make a cut. Hopefully that doesn't happen. As I said, I am reading off of a big outline, a script, if you will. So hopefully nothing bad happens and this can go pretty smoothly. With that out of the way, let me break down everything we're going to be doing today. You're going to see the timestamps pop up to the side of the screen here. And we're going to be starting off with the trade block. Per usual, we're also going to be covering our matchup reviews of Week 9. Some pretty good matchups there. We're going to be doing our updated power rankings. Not a tier list this week. We're going to be going back to the regular format. And we're going to be doing our matchup previews with a very, very good and what should be competitive primetime matchup. So stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let's get into the trade block. Starting off here with the trade block, we have a lot of new people added, so let's just start right here with Ja'Marr Chase from the Cincinnati Bengals being added to the block, and this seems like just a shot move. I don't think he'll move on from Ja'Marr Chase unless someone came in with an offer that absolutely blew him away. But also with the Cincinnati Bengals, we have Keenan Allen on the block. I think the same deal here. I think if an offer blows him away, that's kind of what he's looking for here. He's not really looking to move on from these guys. But more realistic here, we have the Little Giants putting CJ Stroud on the block, clearly trying to capitalize off of his historic performance this past week. And we'll get into that more in the matchup reviews. But as a quarterback, I don't see how much value he actually has, especially since he's a rookie. It's going to be pretty tight, though, with how hard it is to gauge quarterbacks and how they stack up to skill players. But we'll see. CJ Stroud on the block. And finally, we have Cooper Kupp being added back to the block, this time by the Thank You to Mar team, Dom's team, originally added by, I believe, the Bengals, currently known. And I think he's honestly panicking here. His goal, specifically this week, was to get someone to make an immediate impact who's a trusted player. I would assume that maybe this provides him with some depth pieces is what he's looking for. He knows he doesn't have good wide receivers. He has great running backs in Eckler and Kamara. His problem is the receiver depth is not totally there. And I think that's what he meant to get with Kupp, trading all those running backs, but it just didn't work out, and I think he's ready to move on from him. Unfortunately, he's not in a position where he can sacrifice these wins for Cooper Kupp to kind of get back on track. Cooper Kupp added to the block, and before we end this segment, I'm going to pop up the trade block for everybody to see in case people have forgotten who's on it, who's off of it, if they want to maybe start targeting some people. We're getting into the crunch time of the year. Teams maybe need to make some trades for the playoffs, so this is a good thing to see for people who are trying to sell players and maybe even buy some. This is the trade block. We're going to move on now to the matchup reviews. Starting off with the matchup reviews, let's go to the Bigger Than Black and White and Aaron Rodgers Achilles game. Bigger Than Black and White falls to the Achilles team 120-93, and unfortunately Bigger Than Black and White just did not show up. All around he had a great performance from Rachaad White, but that did not correlate to any of the other players on his team. No one else, fun fact, scoring above 15 points besides Mahomes, as you can see on your screen here. And for the Achilles team, all around a great win. He had Jaylen Warren starting in the running back 2 spot. Big risk maybe in his part, as in terms of namesake. and it worked out for him. He put up more points. It was a smart play. But all around, the team put up very impressive numbers, no one going under 10, and you can't be mad at that performance at all. So a great win for the Achilles team, moving him to 6-3. Moving on here, I have the Team Armani and Team DD game. Team Armani winning 121 to 92.26. And this was a pretty boring game, unfortunately. Amari Cooper and T. Higgins finally having great games, and it correlated fantastically with each other. As for Team DD, continuing to stumble. If you unfortunately missing Jefferson mightily. Hopefully he comes back this week, but this roster is just not built to win. We'll have to see how this team stacks up moving forward, but in terms of Team Armani, the important team here, great win for him. This team looks really good right now. It's hitting its stride ever since trading for McCaffrey, and even without him this week, it performs at such a pretty high level. 121 is pretty respectable in the amount of points scored for the week. Look, moving to 6-3, this is a powerhouse team, and we're going to get into this more in the power rankings. I can't really say much more. Great win for Team Armani, tough loss for Team DD, continuing to slide. Now in that strong conversation for last place. Moving on here again, we have what appears to be, unfortunately, the upset of the week. We have the Guardians of Your Mom's House falling to Chubb Checker 102 to 97.5. Chubb Checker with an impressive win. Disappointing loss for the Guardians, having 0 points from Michael Thomas and very underperforming players everywhere else. Everywhere fucking else. It was abysmal that I even had to watch that shit. Especially on Monday night. Fuck the Jets, dude. Fuck the Jets. Chubb Checker having Dalton Schultz go off for him, which is great. Especially with Kittle out, typically the starter there. Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon having great games. Finally, after trading for them, it's great to see them putting up good performances for Mez. Look, this is a big win for Chubb Checker. Having great games like this, he's now won, I think, 3 games in the last 4 weeks, I believe. I could be maybe 5 weeks. It's great for him to not get last place, right? In terms of the last place team finishers, I would say, I don't think this is the worst roster. And we'll get into this more in a little bit. But he's in a solid spot, and this is a huge win for Chubb Checker. Next up, I have one of the best games of the weekend. We have the Little Giants taking down Lamar's Backpack 110 to 108. A very close game. It came all the way down to Sunday night. And unfortunately, Stephon Diggs could just not get the extra 3 points. The storyline of this game was CJ Stroud, obviously. As I mentioned before, who is now on the trade block. He put up an absolute legacy game, putting up 42 points. And I believe that that's the highest QB game of the year thus far. I could be wrong, but that makes sense to me. Clearly, this was the reason that the Little Giants won. I will say that the Little Giants did beat the Tyreek Hill carrying allegations, but you could also maybe make the argument that the points that Tyreek Hill would usually score carried over to CJ Stroud. So did he beat those allegations? Did they just transfer? I don't know. As for Lamar's Backpack, look, falling to 4-5, not too big of a concern because he is still the leader in points of the league. However, I will say, unfortunate having to lose a very winnable game there. In my microphone, a very winnable game there. I feel like moving on to next week, there is a pretty good opportunity for a bounce back, obviously. Yeah, I'm not concerned about this team whatsoever, but nonetheless, a great win for the Little Giants. For the last afternoon game, I have my upset pick of the week game. This was the Cincinnati Bengals and the Thank You Damar team. The Cincinnati Bengals winning 109 to 96. Unfortunately, Damar's team could not get it done for me. Look, the Bengals had a great game from Joe Burrow and Deontay Johnson, who finally caught a touchdown after, I think, almost 2 years. Definitely a year and a half. Very impressive there. The Bengals took advantage of Damar's team having a big letdown of a week from Zay Flowers, and not good week from Alvin Kamara, and not a good week for Cooper Kupp. Look, they all put up about, 30 points combined? Maybe, if that. Very underwhelming. And I feel like there's kind of a weird talk in the group chat as of late. I feel like Dom he's being really weird right now. I think he's kind of feeling the pressure of missing the playoffs after making the Cooper Kupp trade. Listen, if I'm not worrying about it because Stafford's going to come back, it's going to be fine. He still has great running backs to carry him. He just needs Zay Flowers to step up. DeMar team needs to just pull it together, okay? I think they're kind of going off the rails here a little bit. I think you need to bring it in, put your fucking focus hat back on and just be in tune with the team, the season right now. You're not out of it. It's so congested right now. You're not out of it, Dom. Please, just be confident in your team. As for the Bengals team, it's a great win for them, moving them into the positive record column for, I think, the first time all year. Very good stuff there. Putting themselves firmly in the playoff bracket, again for the first time this year. And that's great. Great for them. Keep fighting hard. That means finally we have the primetime game of Week 9, and it was Team Doyle taking down the GOAT Squad 115 to 84.5. A pretty easy win for Team Doyle. This game was over pretty much Sunday afternoon. I would say truthfully the GOAT Squad putting up another pretty poor performance. Obviously not totally his fault. Travis Kelce was nowhere to be found. Gabe Davis literally put up 0 points. I don't even know how this team really put up as many points as they did when you look at it, because looking at this team right now, there's so many duds. The only one that did good was Dak, who almost put up 30, which was a good stream play. Unfortunately, though, moving to 4 and 5, I will say that both of these teams did have a lot of people out on buys, so I will give, both teams the benefit of the doubt there. However, for Team Doyle, I still think it's a great win for him, moving him back into the positive win column. I think for Team Doyle, this is a huge win for him. As I said in last week's episode, this was a big week for both teams, and Team Doyle took advantage. Both teams were out on buys. They were perfectly matched up, perfectly projected against each other going into this week. There was no excuses, and quite simply, Team Doyle performed better. So, great win for him, and let's now move on to the weekly awards. I want to say that we did not have any plays of the week, unfortunately, directly resulting in wins that I could find. If I'm wrong, please let me know, and I will give you full credit next week. I'll apologize. I'll make it a whole thing. But from what I saw, I could not find any plays of the week. However, we do have a You Fucked Up award, and this was so close to going to so many different people, but unfortunately it has to go to the Guardians of Your Mom's House. No one likes to give them bad awards. Obviously, everyone loves that team. But it's for starting Michael Thomas over Romeo Doubs, in which Michael Thomas scored 0 points and Romeo Doubs scored 6.5, which would have been enough to win against Chubb Checker. And they were both projected around the same amount, so that's why I'm adding this into the You Fucked Up award plays. But can I just say, how the fuck was I supposed to know that Michael Thomas was going to get a single catch against the worst secondary I've probably ever seen? I don't know, but I guess that's how it works with this award, and I finally understand what it's like to be, Chris, Tyler, a lot of other people, so. Whatever, you guys got it, you guys got me. I get the You Fucked Up award. Moving on to the power rankings, we are going to be going back to our normal format as mentioned in the beginning part of the video. For this week, just to keep switching it up, we're going to go back to a tier list, which I love that idea. By the way, last week I thought it was awesome. I think you guys enjoyed it as well. But we're going to be going back to that here in a few weeks. I would say week 12 or 13, right before the playoff time. But for this week, I want to switch it back to the regular power rankings, but we're going to keep everything kind of short and sweet if I can. With that being said, let's start off with number 12. Again, going to Team DD. I think top to bottom, the worst roster in the league. Jefferson might be coming back, so he may be able to sneak a win in here and there because, Jay Jettos will have a legacy game every now and then. But unfortunately, I do think this is the last place team this year doing the Waffle House Challenge most likely. Number 11, we have Chubby Checker at 3 wins now tied with Bigger Than Black and White and Team DD. No longer the worst record is great to see. The roster itself is pretty average. All around, I would say, I think each player has its own abilities to pop off, as we have seen now in the weeks that Chubby Checker has won. Each player kind of saves this team. However, I still think it's going to be hard to put them all together for a week. Is it possible for everybody to come together at once and make a statement win? I don't know. I still think this team is going to rely on other teams dudding, as all 3 of these wins have come off of opponent duds. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited to witness a monstrous win from Chubby Checker. Maybe this week. We don't know. We'll see. Coming in at number 10, I have Bigger Than Black and White. I think the roster is better than the record shows. Obviously getting off to an abysmal start. But I have to be objective here. And sitting at 3 and 6, I don't think I could morally put you any higher. I do think you're not the worst team, nor a contender for last place. I should say there is still a lot of depth and backup problems whenever you are dealing with injuries to maybe Rachaad White or DeAndre Swift. You know, you have no one to replace them, right? No one in the flexes can play running back. No one on the bench is a good running back replacement, and that scares me. Coming in at number 9, I have once again the GOAT squad. Back again as they were last week. Now at 4 and 5, he's one of the worst scoring teams in the league, especially those at 4 and 5. Look, there's a lot of questions with the GOAT squad. Luckily, they're in a weak division, so there's a big chance that this team can sneak in as a division winner. Not been a dominant week that we've really seen from this team, and as the last few weeks especially. You know, the big win against DeMar's team was good, but these last few weeks are going to be monumental for the GOAT squad. Maybe a big trade has to be made for this team. Obviously, Travis Kelce is on the block, but there needs to be more firepower. It's kind of unfortunate because I see the firepower on paper. It's just not performing, you know, together. And I think, I keep fucking hitting the mic. I'm terrible at this shit. I still think that there's a lot of good players on the team. They just have to work together. And they haven't. And that's what's holding this team back. Will this team make the playoffs? I don't know. There's a lot of good 5 and 4, 6 and 3 teams. Coming in at number 8, I have the Thank You DeMar team. And I do like this roster still. I think it has a lot of good star power. But for some reason, it's just not working. And I know Dom wants to blame Cooper Kupp. I'm not going to blame Cooper Kupp. I'm going to blame the fact that he drafted Zay Flowers in the 6th round. And he's truthfully a flex player in his wide receiver 1. Relying on him to put up wide receiver 1 numbers. He's a rookie at that as well. He doesn't have anyone to back up Kamara and Eckler as well, which, granted, that's a great 1-2 combo in a PPR format which we play, but with the possibility of one of those guys going down, there's no one to back them up. But what, Chuba? Chuba's gonna back him up? Okay, whatever. Bottom line is, another one of those teams that are just underperforming right now. I think they can get a little win streak going, truthfully I do. Maybe a Cooper Kupp trade has to be made at this point. Maybe there needs to be a little more depth at the wide receiver or running back position. Coming in at number 7, I have the Guardians of Your Mom's House. And look, this team, it had a bad week last week, a tough loss as we have seen. And the only reason that maybe it's even this high is because it is 5 and 4 and is a division leader. Listen, I hear the criticism, I hear what people are saying, and I agree. I think that there's a lot of problems with this team. As the manager himself, there's obviously a lot of problems with this team. They don't always click together. It's like a lot of guys. I would say most like the GOAT squad. You know, you'll have your players go off for you, but it's never happening all at once. The fact that this team's biggest week was against the Little Giants that, granted, wasn't even 130 points, is a big concern. Especially when you see teams putting up 180, 170, 160, whatever it may be. Moving forward, maybe this team needs to make a trade. I know it has a couple people on the block, but we'll have to see what happens. For right now, definitely the worst team with a winning record. I'll say that. I'm own up to that. Luckily for him, I suppose, he's in a weak division. This team has a chance to be a division leader and make the 3 seed. It could honestly be the worst 3 seed of all time, but yeah, Guardians are number 7. Whatever. I don't even want to talk about them. Jesus Christ. Moving on, it's the Cincinnati Bengals at number 6. And I like this team. All around, I think the wide receivers are fantastic. I think the running backs are a bit concerning. Tony Pollard does not have the firepower. He's not having the year that I think we all thought he would. And Kareem Hunt, although serviceable, is still risky. But the 3-headed monster is just so damn good. Look, Olave, Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase. That's a dangerous 3-headed monster right there. And now you have Deontay Johnson emerging. Very, very promising. And look, I think this team has moved up in terms of, the tier list from last week into the playoff teams category. And he's still in a tough division, which is impressive. There is still a concern with the scoring with this team, right? I know it keeps switching up, but that doesn't hide the fact that there's still a low amount of scoring even with all these guys trying to play together. Last 2 weeks I would point out, very underperforming. However, 5-4, good for them in the playoff picture as of now, and a big turnaround from where this team was just a couple weeks ago. So, great job by the Bengals. Coming in at number 5, I have Tim Doyle, a consistent player back on the right track. His team all around is very good. We know this. We know Tim Doyle has the firepower. And it's only getting better with David Montgomery coming back. I will say that this is a great sign. But with his role now with Jahmyr Gibbs in that offense, who knows if he's the same player before he went down. However, it's still a great player for him. I think easily a top 20 back this year. Look, this team has great wide receivers. It has A.J. Brown, obviously. It has Jalen Hurts. That stack is amazing. I think this team is primed for a good playoff run. But like a lot of these teams, other guys are in this tough division. He has so many 5-4, 6-3 teams that he's got to get through. It's more so a matter of, can this team click at the right time, and probably more importantly, can this team stay healthy enough? I think this is going to take 8 wins at least to make the playoffs this year. I think in years past it's been 7. So in the divisions that these guys are in, it's going to take 8 wins to make the division, or the playoffs, I'm sorry. I think Team Doyle can do it. I think it has a good all-around roster, but it's just going to be harder than usual. Nevertheless, I do still think Team Doyle is a great team. I wouldn't want to go up against it in the playoffs, and that's why I'm ranking it here at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I have Lamar's backpack. And listen, I get it. It might be controversial. I get it. He has a losing record, and, this is really high for that. However, I will say that although the record doesn't show this, it is by far the highest scoring team in the league with over 1,100 points. Look, the next closest guy is Team Doyle, and he has 1,069. Nice. But Lamar's backpack is as good as we have ever seen in terms of dominant teams, dominant scoring teams, I think personally. Look, he has boom players at every position. The running backs. And recently, been a little bit of a concern, but still, Derrick Henry and Isaiah Pacheco can put up a 30 bomb at any point. Maybe more so Derrick Henry, but the wide receivers. Look, Stephon Diggs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I've said in multiple weeks now. He has a consistent 50 points. That's huge. No other team can really say that besides maybe one. Guaranteed one, actually. I can say that about one other team, and we'll get into that later on. But listen, going into the playoffs, that's super huge. That's a huge advantage. And I know that Lamar's backpack is not sweating the record because, like I said, you have boom players everywhere. You have a consistent 50 points from 2 players at least. For right now, I still think with the outlook, Lamar's backpack, definitely the 4th best team, and it could very well be a Super Bowl contender this year. Coming in at number 3, I have the Achilles team, Aaron Rodgers' Achilles, and although dropping just a little bit from number 2 last week, still things are very good. It's still a very good all-around team, very good boom and boom players, specifically in the flexes, I should say. Young guys like Jordan Addison and Tank Dell, as well as a running back with, Bijan, and now I guess you're going to start with Jaylen Warren for the rest of the year. Look, not sexy, but look, maybe 10 points, 8 points a game. Some people could use that. Look, it's a 6-3 team. That's obviously one of the best records in the league. Tied for the best record in the league. And I think this team reflects that. I think it's built all around very, very well. Another team that I think will be in the playoffs, and it's a matter of how far will this team go. So, building off of that, coming in at number 2, I have Team Marmani. And I have been so disrespectful to this team this year, and I am super excited to talk about this. Look, I am sorry, Team Armani. I am so sorry, because look, you have a great team. Ever since you made the CMC trade and also the Saquon trade, your team is amazing since then. You have benefited so greatly from these trades, and I don't know if I really gave you your flowers when I did the recap videos. I'm going to go back and kind of look at them because they are 100% benefiting you now. I don't even know if I gave you those wins, technically speaking, in the recap videos. Well, I think you won the trades now, regardless. Regardless of anything, you have the best record out of both of the guys. The players, much like Jay Gill in Lamar's backpack, they offer you a consistent 50, 60 points a game, especially with ETN in the mix, which is insane that you have these 3 running backs, because it pretty much is a 60 to 70 point guarantee every week. And it's a very scary thing whenever you look at the other teams in the league who don't have that. And whenever we do redo the tier list, I definitely am going to put this team in the Juggernaut Super Bowl contender category, because it's a 6-3 team. It has consistent points scored every single week. It can win without them, as it just did without ETN and CMC. It can win without its star players. I mean, I'm very, very impressed. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I'm really sorry. So obviously, with Team Armani being at number 2, that means that for the 5th week in a row, we have the Little Giants. And truthfully, I'm being honest, I wanted to put Team Armani in this number 1 spot. However, I broke it down because there is still they're tied at the record. I broke it down to where the Little Giants have the points for advantage and also the points allowed advantage, meaning they gave up more and still are 6-3. So I gave it to the Little Giants again for this week. Very slim. Listen, this has obviously been the best team in the league for a while now. I will mention that Dallas Goedert did just get hurt, and that might cause some problems down the road. He's a big player for this team. But, still having Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Jonathan Taylor, all looking really good right now, especially JT. I think this is an obvious playoff team. The question is, as it is with everyone at 6-3, how far can they go in the playoffs? Is this actually a championship contending team? Was I wrong with my tier list? I don't know. I don't think I was. But gosh, I mean, it's getting really competitive. And we'll have to see how it, stacks up here in a couple weeks. Like I said, this is the crunch time now for all these teams. And now for the final segment, I hope you guys have enjoyed this far. Hopefully it wasn't terrible. So with that being said, let's get into our first game here, starting with Team Doyle taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And Team Doyle is one of those teams this week that is brutally shot with the bye weeks. And trust me, there's a lot of these teams this week dealing with this, unfortunately. And with the Bengals pretty much being at full health, no one on bye, I don't really see confidently how Team Doyle can pull this one out, especially because the Bengals have pretty good matchups everywhere. I mean, look, Chase against Houston, Olave against Minnesota. Look, it's going to be very tough for Team Doyle. And like I said, I just don't think it's the right week for him. Unfortunately, it's the wrong week. The right week for the Bengals, I would assume, but I think that the Bengals take this matchup. I don't know if you can really argue with that. Next up, I have Thank You Damar taking on Bigger Than Black and White. Look, Bigger Than Black and White, another team destroyed and decimated by the bye weeks, losing Mahomes, Swift, and Puka, just to name a few. With the Damar team, however, also losing Kupp as the Rams are on a bye. But as he has been in recent weeks, I don't know if that's really necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing that the early projections are showing what it appears to be an even matchup, because I think otherwise. I think the running backs of Damar's team will be too much to handle for Bigger Than Black and White, especially without Mahomes and Swift and Puka. And for these reasons, I'm going to be giving this one to the Thank You Damar team. You guys can argue with me if you want, but it's just one of those tough weeks where teams are getting crushed by the bye weeks. Bigger Than Black and White is one of those teams. Next up, we have Chubb Checker taking on Lamar's backpack. And listen, I didn't give this team a chance to win last weekend, and sure enough, they fucking won. Going up against Lamar's backpack, though, it looks like it should be an easy win. Everybody's playing besides Pacheco, and everyone's healthy, of course. Going up against Chubb Checker without Raheem Mostert, am I missing something here? I mean, why am I scared to take Lamar's backpack? Why does Chubb Checker scare me at this point? I'm still going to take Lamar's team, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Chubb Checker won, because somehow, someway, this team just finds ways to win as they have in recent weeks. Next up, I have Team Marmonti taking on the GOAT Squad. And the GOAT Squad, another team decimated by the bye weeks. Miami, Kansas City, and LA. I don't think this is an arguable game. Team Marmonti has such an advantage. And he has everybody playing. Everybody back from bye week. Like I mentioned earlier, he has the guaranteed 60 points of Etienne, McCaffrey, and Barkley. I don't want to say this, but it might be more than the GOAT Squad even puts up. Like I said straight up, that the GOAT Squad needs to win weeks now. Like from here on out, they need to start winning. The record and the schedule has not come at a worse time for the GOAT Squad. Having to go up against Team Armani, who's fully healthy and ready to go. The GOAT Squad, I'm pulling for you. I really am pulling for you, even as a division rival, because this literally might be a murder. This might be a murder, but I gotta take Team Armani. Obviously, he's fully healthy. He's no bye weeks. I'm gonna move on. I'm sorry. Next game. My upset pick of the week game. And it's gonna be the game with Team Didi and the Little Giants. Ain't that something? I am going up against all odds. I am just throwing I'm just throwing everything out the window here. I know Team Didi has an abysmal roster, but I think if there's ever a week that the Little Giants dud, they fall, get embarrassed, it's this one. Against the worst team in the league. Look, does Team Didi have pretty good matchups? Of course he does. He has Kenneth Walker up against Washington, Drake London against Arizona, if he plays. Let me preface that. Some may see this as disrespect, and I know that the Little Giants obviously don't want to hear this, but I have to give an upset pick of the week because I'm not a pussy, and I think this one is a good one to take. No Tyreek Hill. CJ Stroud's not going to have another 40-point game. I think if there's a week that this team duds, or Team Didi has one good week, because he has to have one good week, right? He has to have one good week. I think this is the week. So, for my upset pick of the week, I'm going to be giving this to Team Didi. And that means, ladies and gentlemen, for the primetime game of the week, I think one of the best looking matchups on paper, and one of the best primetime games we've had this year, hopefully. We have the Aaron Rodgers Achilles team taking on the Guardians of your mom's house. Now, early projections are showing what appears to be a pretty even game. And side note, what's funny is that the players in this game on both these teams in real life are actually playing each other, you know. Arizona against Atlanta, Las Vegas against the Jets, Chicago against Carolina, Minnesota against New Orleans. I haven't really, truthfully, seen a game that impactful with each other, so everyone's going to be watching the same games. We do not have a video from the Achilles team, but in his shoes, you know, it's not really a big deal. It's not a must-win week for him. Look, he's at 6-3 right now. He's looking pretty good. I think he understands the roster buildup of his team, and that's a scary thing. That's very intimidating. Trust me, as an opponent, it's very intimidating. Although he didn't send in a video, we do have a video from the Guardians manager, and we're going to roll that clip right now. Guardians manager checking in. Primetime matchup. This is a must-win. If I'm being 100% honest, this is a must-win game. And, you know, we've had a couple bad beats. A couple bad games this year. We need to bounce back from it, truthfully. I want to see a really dominant win. Because if we don't, it's not going to be looking good come playoff time. And there's a lot of talks about trades. There's a lot of talks about teams switching up. To be honest, I love my team. I think my boys, I think they're fucking perfect for this team. I think they worked well together when it does work. And I believe that come playoff time later in the season, they're 100% going to show out. I can feel it. I know it. And I'm patient. And that's all I can ask for. That's all my team can ask for me personally. And, you know, for this week alone, I think it's going to show out today. I think we're going to bounce back better than last week for sure. So, Juddy, good luck. Fuck you. Very impactful words there. Obviously feeling the pressure, but sticking to his team. And that's what you like to see. Not panicking, having confidence. And I have to give full credit there. Truthfully, I think there is a must-win game for the Guardians. And if his team, I should say, falls to 5-5, it's not going to be a good look moving into the later half of the season. Dropping what should have been very winnable games, you know, early on in the season. I think this is a must-win game for this team. Unfortunately, having to go up against a very on-fire Achilles team, as I mentioned, both teams have so many players playing against each other. I would argue that the Achilles team has the better of the matchups. Just, you know, being straight here, Bijan against Arizona is way better than, let's say, Kyler and James Conner against Atlanta. Garrett Wilson against Vegas is a lot better than Avante Adams against the Jets. You know, as we just saw with Monday Night Football, that D-line is fucking crazy. The secondary is insane. The Jets have such a good defense, especially because the Raiders' offense is so bad. It might be a bloodbath. And those are just a few examples. You know, I definitely think that it's going to be a pretty entertaining game, but as I do think these teams are even, I'm going to have to give the edge here to the Achilles team because the matchups are so much better. Just looking on the outside, just looking on the surface of this matchup, I think the Achilles team is going to be benefiting from the matchup. So that is my official pick for prime time there. So with all that being said, let me just recap my picks as I always do. I went 2-4 last week, moving my season record to, I believe, 26-28, so now currently losing. I need to fix that, clearly, and hopefully this week I can do better. So let me recap. The picks I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning. I have Thank You DeMar winning. I have Lamar's Backpack winning. I have Team Marmonti winning. And for my upset pick of the week, I have Team Didi winning. And finally, for the primetime matchup, I have the Aaron Rodgers Achilles team. Hopefully, I can go 4-2, 5-1. Just get me back to that 500 level for the all-time season rankings, or season record, I should say. I'm taking it kind of seriously, honestly. I know there's nothing on the line for it, but I'm just kind of curious how good I can do. So, with all that out of the way, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast style. It was definitely more raw. Pause. less editing. This is really just an experiment to see if you guys like this format or not. I know a lot of people drive to work and listen, as I mentioned in the beginning, maybe putting it on for background noise, which I'm totally fine with. It's totally cool, it's good. I just want to kind of appeal to everybody's, schedules and what they kind of watch the videos for. So this is just me kind of switching it up. Also, it definitely helps me out because less editing. Enough of me. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. Hopefully you guys like it because I could definitely see this may be working. I have to get better at it. Obviously, I took a lot of attempts to do this, but it's something new. So, with all that being said, good luck to everybody in week 10. The playoffs are right around the corner. I think everybody needs to start gearing up. Look, it's super competitive this year. Probably the most competitive we've ever been. And it's crunch time. It is crunch time. So, thank you all for watching, and have a good week.